of SheStarts. I'm very excited about this session and having you all with us today. I know that it's, you've probably been attending a lot of webinars and online sessions, and so we wanted to make this an event that it's quite interactive and a good conversation, and do it at this time of day so that you can be done with all your work and family duties, I hope, and can join us and relax. We have some amazing women with us today. Unfortunately, Joanne Howard wasn't able to join us. She's a bit sick, but we have 4 other speakers, or 3 other speakers and a moderator. So with SheStarts, we've been around for a few years already. We really have been having fun in terms of working with tremendous or remarkable, amazing female founders. We've run 3 editions already and are looking to run another program in 2020. If you are subscribed to our newsletter or follow us on socials, you will know when we do. But if you have any questions, just reach out to me with philippa@bluechili.com or to our email at SheStarts. If you have a startup and you'd like, you can also add that to your name today. In terms of the questions we will ask you, I will be managing that, and you can message me directly in the chat or ask it to everyone. Just mention your name and what you do when you speak. And now I will hand over to Unji. She's connecting from Paris, which is a little bit earlier than here in Australia. We're very happy to be collaborating with Cartier Women's Initiative for this event, and she will tell you all about it now. So Unji, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Philippa. Wow. I'm so happy to meet everyone here on this Zoom webinar. So my name is Winchi Sampaio, and I'm the Global Program Director for the Cartier Women Initiative. We are a global program that is specifically designed for women impact entrepreneurs around the world. And in our last edition, we were very fortunate to have had 2 participants as part of our fellowship program that is from Australia. And we're also thrilled very much today to have the chance to collaborate with Blue Chili and the SheStart program to learn more about all of the amazing work that women entrepreneurs are doing in Australia. And also to have the chance to sort of moderate this panel and share experience amongst women entrepreneurs during this difficult time of the COVID crisis. So without further ado, I wanted to also introduce to you the 2 speakers today, which is Annie McAuley of Talkie Play, as well as Lucinda Hartley of Neighborly Analytics, which are 2 alums of the SheStarts program. And I'm really excited to have the chance to speak with Lucinda and also Annie today, because actually back in March of this year, when the COVID crisis first started, as part of the Cartier Women Initiative, we also had a chance to host a peer learning session amongst our fellowship program, where our Chinese fellows who experienced the COVID situation earlier than the rest of the world were sharing sort of what they were seeing with the rest of the world. And so today I'm really interested in learning more about what's going on in Australia and how Lucinda and Annie might have pivoted and learned about their business and new strategies that they might have tried during this time. So without further ado, maybe I will ask Annie to first introduce a bit about herself and her business. Oh, Annie, you're on mute.
I always do that. Hey.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Anne. I'm the founder and CEO of Talkie Play. It's so nice to be here. So Talkie Play is an innovative technology. It makes ordinary objects like furniture and toys come to life to talk, sing, and play games. It accelerates children's language learning aimed at 2 to 5-year-olds. We're research-backed. We're used by 1,500 kids in Victoria, in Australia last year. And then, the pandemic hit. So we had this research-backed technology that we know was user-tested, and we were perfectly primed for early preschool remote learning for parents. So what we decided to do was to make it available internationally. And it's been a great decision to pivot into that market. We pivoted, instead of a device, we make QR codes that are free to download, and everything is free to set up and quick to get going. we're now seeing massive growth. So we've got growth in the US, the UK, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam as of recent. It's been a huge time for us as a business, but I mean, we've had amazing support to do this, and I'm really happy to talk more about it.
Fantastic, great. Annie, we're looking forward to hear more about your work. And now perhaps Lucinda, can you share a bit about Neighborlytics?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Lucinda from Neighborlytics, and we are a digital analytics platform for neighborhoods. So think of it a little bit like Google Analytics for places. And we harvest rich data every day in cities. We are leaving behind digital footprints about what we love and feel connected to through our social media accounts and smartphones. And Neighborlytics harvest this information to provide really rich insights around the social life and well-being of neighborhoods. We started in 2017 and have been on a very rapid growth journey since then. We've just clocked over 1,000 neighborhoods in 12 countries that we're measuring, and working with world's leading city makers like Lendlease, the Government of Scotland, the Greater Sydney Commission, to influence really major strategic infrastructure and placemaking decisions about livability and well-being. So things like Main Street upgrades, or decisions about parks and local places. And, you know, we've had this really interesting couple of months where we are watching through our data the impacts and shifts of COVID and how they impact local neighborhoods in real time. I think if anything, what we've all experienced during COVID is kind of what we might call localization, or kind of like a return to local neighborhoods. And we are seeing that in the data, where there is, you know, an up to 300, 400% increase in the volume of data being created in local neighborhoods rather than CBDs, and the patterns of behavior and the stories that they tell have a really important piece to play in how we think about recovery, both economic recovery and social recovery. So if anything, this is actually presenting a massive opportunity for us, but a lot of things to think about, and we're excited to be talking about that tonight.
Wow, very exciting, Lucinda. We're looking forward to hearing more about what's going on with your business. It sounds like both for you and Annie's business during this period of time has been an incredible opportunity. So maybe let's start with our set of questions. So so when did you first realize that the COVID would be a potential disruption to your business, and what action did you take? Maybe we start with Annie first for this question.
Oh yeah, so we originally were in preschools, so our major focus was working business to business with preschools. When we started seeing with the pandemic here in Australia, kids were being unenrolled from preschools. You know, this for us was a really big indicator that things weren't going to go as planned for us this year. We were expecting massive growth, you know, and to start in multiple preschools across different states of Australia, that we felt probably wasn't going to happen. So we did see that parents were starting to contact us for our technology to use at home because they weren't in the preschool anymore. And we thought, right, this is a great opportunity for us. Let's just do it. And I'm so glad that we did. It was really huge for the team. So for us, it meant we had to, you know, assess if we could do this as a team, and we did it together. You know, and I think it, you know, the proof is in the pudding, the fact that we're getting all this, you know, interest, not just in Australia, and wonderful feedback, but internationally. It means to me that we've done the right thing.
So when did all this increase from the preschool or the parents started?
Yeah, I think all of my timeline is a little fuzzy because it's also, you know, interconnecting with everything that was happening in us, in our lives as a family. So I think it was around the second week in March for us, really, here in Victoria. Okay. And it was that I have a child who's in preschool, and we were thinking the same thing. So we were very live and breathing what was happening, you know, to the parents that we were talking to at the time.
I see. So you were experiencing the use case yourself. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great way to know. I really have a very close understanding of the problem and the pain points. How about you, Lucinda? How about for you? When did you realize that COVID-19 would be a big disruption to your business?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. I think what we've noticed, we work mostly with customers who are working in planning and infrastructure, city making of various kinds, and naturally there was a lot of indecision and pausing in the market of people not quite sure what this is going to do. Like in some areas, construction sites were closed, in other areas they're staying open, and all these kinds of disruptions. We didn't notice an immediate change in our work. What we did really notice was that there was a hunger for real-time data in a way that we haven't experienced before. So previously, it's nice to have real-time data, but people are quite used to using traditional data sets, like, for example, surveys or the census, in order to extrapolate social life outcomes. But suddenly people's behavior wasn't predictable anymore, and it was really difficult for people to even try to understand their problems. And so the biggest shift that we first noticed, that instead of trying to use our data to answer perhaps more, important, but maybe we might say more superficial questions like place branding for a shopping center, people wanted to use our data to understand economic resilience, or which industries are going to be hit most, or what's the impact on the local cafes in my area, and what does this say about community well-being. And while our platform can answer those questions, in those areas it's actually least mature, and we've built it the most maturity around where the greatest demand was, of course, which has been in more of the kind of branding marketing angle of some of the ways that customers use our data. So we basically pivoted our product and launched a new one in 5 weeks, and that was fairly intense. And we're still on that journey of refining the analytics behind that. But in lots of ways, there's been the questions that we've been asking have been the difference that we've seen in the last few months. And
wow. So for your work, in terms of your pivot and the new change in, I would say, I guess, interest in products and services, it's also in mid-March that it all started, or it's a bit more recent?
I think the change in our product focus has been more recent. That was really through May and in June, but we did notice the shifts in the industry, and certainly closing our office down in early March. That the first sort of thing that we noticed was that our staff and our team were getting more and more anxious to come to work on public transport. Even though Australia wasn't in lockdown at that time, we could see and feel that. So we decided early to close our office, and that was perhaps our earliest indicator of this isn't normal.
Oh, wow. And so, in Annie's discussion, she mentioned that she was actually the opportunities for COVID led her to international markets. And for you, has it been additional cities in Australia, or what main opportunities has COVID provided you with this new, offering that you're launching? Where is it being offered at?
Yeah, so we've had some major partnership opportunities emerge in the US as a result in this, and so we're in active discussions about, our product works for any address in the world already, so customers can and do purchase other locations already, but what we have noticed is perhaps these larger partnership opportunities emerging in new markets, as well as going, I think, deeper into the verticals that we're currently working in Australia. And the other shift has been perhaps towards larger projects with state and federal government, where previously we had been working with the property sector and local government as our primary cohort, seeing that shift at state level, which is a new target sector for us.
Wow, amazing, very exciting. So maybe now we can move on to a bit of questions around the work relationships and how you have managed your team from afar, because a lot of this has also changed during this time frame. Both of you have had teams that worked in the office with you, and of course working together in person is different than working virtually. So how has the restrictions in Australia led to how you might work differently with your team members? Annie, maybe we start with you first.
Thanks. Yeah, like you said, it was difficult. We're used to working in an office together. We had an office in Collingwood. So being face to face and creating was one of the things that we did. We often went out to preschools as well, so we were interacting with the kids and the teachers and parents that were using our technology. So we were learning and growing a lot from that, but it became apparent that was not going to be possible. We first got our emails and calls saying that preschools wouldn't allow us in the door anymore, and that adults and parents, including us, couldn't come in. So that was big. We also noticed, like Lucinda was saying, people didn't want to come in to the office. The CBD was a bit of a hot zone, I guess, and public transport, wasn't an option. We didn't have enough parking. So we did decide to close it, and we're all remote working. We had done a period of remote working before, so we were ready to adapt. For me, what I think I really noticed about remote working with teams is that you have to really know what you're doing. You can't rely on the fact that they're going to pick up subtleties in, you know, that body gesture about, you know, your excitement around a new line. Like, for instance, we're all working on a dinosaur game line to come out because kids love dinosaurs, and that's something we probably would have done dynamically in the office together. But instead we're doing it all remotely. So we're using a lot of project tools. So we're using Jira and Asana for different things, because we need to also put things into like Bitbucket to make sure we can go back if there's problems. So we keep things every step meticulously done. You know, but I think it's interesting because remote learning has made us very task orientated. So I think one of the things that we're doing internally as well for the team is to make sure that we're also being project and focus orientated, so that we're not just ticking things off a list, that we're actually creating and innovating and trying to create that space. I can't say that I have this down packed on how it's going to work, but we're trying. And we know that we're going to have to be doing this for quite a while.
Wow. Oh, well, and so these changes you have been implementing with your team. So likely you will be keeping them even in the future, or yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always used the like tracking tools like in Jira and everything to keep updated, particularly because half our team have kids. So, you know, that adds a dynamic that sometimes it just didn't work for people to work during the day. So they would do a lot of their task-oriented stuff after meetings and everything at nighttime, which is fine. So we had all that going. But I think, you know, being remote, we rely on that so much more. You know, it's really even not just a task tool, but a communication tool now. And a way of tracking where we're at, because there's not that point where you say, oh, well, we'll just catch up with that whole lot when we're at the office face to face. That's not happening anymore.
Yes.
I'm pretty proud of the team in the way that we've done this, because it's huge. It's a huge undertaking to be completely remote.
Yeah. It's a big cultural and communication mindset shifts, right? So, oh, fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that things have worked out all right for you during this time with your team. Lucinda, how about you? Have you implemented anything that has changed in terms of how your team management and how your team works together?
Yeah, completely. I mean, as much as we are a digital company, we have had a completely face-to-face culture to date. And we've had to really completely change everything about the way that we work, and very quickly, as I think a lot of people have. I mean, we're in a fortunate position that all parts of our business can operate remotely. So it's not like we were relying on sort of workshops or other things for our core business, and we can quite easily adapt in that way. But culturally, it was a big challenge, and we had to put in a lot of systems, and to Annie's point, like really different ways of communicating and structuring our work. Fortunately, we've had some members of our team who've been in full remote workplaces before, and we learned a lot from them, and a lot of new systems. But, you know, I feel like we've actually hired 3 people in the last few months, and I've never met them. And it's kind of like been through this whole recruitment process and now working with them every day. But like, I don't know, it's tricky. And I think, you know, perhaps when there is the option to work from home some of the time, it can be productive. But I think when it's all the time, my experience is it can be less productive, at least for different thinking styles. Like I'm an extroverted thinker. I get my best thinking work done out loud in front of a whiteboard with other people. And so I'm actually not getting that opportunity to do my best work because I don't have, it's very hard to replicate that kind of environment online. And so I think if you do have that kind of thinking style, it can be more challenging to kind of get good quality work done remotely. But look, our team's incredible, to Annie's point as well. I think, you know, we're all in this together and everyone's just putting in so much to try and make it work. And, you know, the managing staff's emotional resilience is continually challenging, especially because you don't always get as many cues to know what's really going on. And that's tough. And we, you know, people are feeling it. I think we've just gone into our second lockdown in Victoria, and coming out of lockdown and then back into it is particularly depressing. I think harder than if we stayed in it the whole time. And so there's kind of we're in our second wave right now in Melbourne, and that just from an emotional resilience perspective and managing the team's emotional resilience is I think the biggest challenge, more than the practical system side.
Yes, indeed. I think the mindset and an emotional well-being of someone is really important, and especially during the entrepreneurship journey. So Lucinda, you know, it's interesting. You mentioned that you actually have had colleagues that you have never met. And are these colleagues locally based and you just haven't had a chance to meet them because you're all working remote? Oh, okay. Because I was also really curious to know if maybe perhaps...
not actually. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, we have always, you know, as I'm sure with Annie's situation too, like certainly our, you know, what's great about this is we have work all over the world, and our absolute ambition is that we would also have a team around the world. And so getting used to working remotely is very helpful. We did recently hire our front-end developer based in Sydney, and I actually think that we might not have done that if it hadn't been for COVID, because we had such a face-to-face culture that it would be very difficult for someone to begin who wasn't able to come in. So the others are local, and that sort of breaks my heart that I don't even know them that well. But but it does enable us this new flexibility of thinking about, well, what you know, maybe we can have staff in different places, and that's not perhaps the barrier that we initially thought it was.
Yeah, it does open a whole brand new source of talent globally that potentially can propel your business too, especially since you're growing globally. Great. So maybe let's move on to some questions about family, work, and school life. I mean, I think it's as a woman entrepreneur, I think that is always a big area of consideration and thinking. You both have school-age children, and how did you manage sort of homeschooling, and how did it go? Maybe we start with Annie again, because I know it sounds like you have preschoolers, which is even, yes, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I have a preschooler and I have a school child, and oh my gosh, manage, cope. No, we didn't very well. It was, you know, I think in retrospect, like, because we now, like Lucinda was saying, we're back in lockdown again. The first time around, I think the stress of it was the hardest thing with the remote learning and balancing everything. Like, I think just reading the media, you know, the build up on what was happening around the world, what was happening locally, was feeding a lot of the stress in our team. It was definitely, we then didn't want the kids to see the news on what's going on, but they wanted to know why they were home. So, you know, that was a challenge. And it was chaos. But in a way, it was a beautiful chaos. So we started doing, so I love what you're saying, Lucinda, because I realize as well from you saying that I also am extroverted planner, and I have a whiteboard and I have butcher paper and I write everything down. So I started planning what our goals were as a family to get through this, and we did it together. And so there are little hearts and little kids drawings on it and everything. And we really focused on what we wanted to achieve that might have been different. So I think that was one of the key things, that trying to be normal wasn't going to work. The same with our, you know, our business, our company, we pivoted. So as a family and a household, we also did that. So we decided that in this time, the kids wanted to learn how to ride their bike. And that was something that had dropped off the list because I'm so busy flying to places and doing things and running meetings and all of that kind of thing. We just didn't get there. So we filled in some really big gaps for our kids. You know, we built that basketball ring that we have been intending to build for the last couple of years, but we did that. And we've done a whole lot of stuff, which I'm really proud about us for. And the kids feel like we've achieved a lot.
That's fantastic. I love how you have a strategic plan amongst the family during the COVID time frame and now. So fantastic. Lucida, how about you? How have you juggled the kiddos and work and all that's going on?
Yeah, I think juggling would be a stretch. I think I'll take a leaf out of your book and maybe make a strategic plan for this second lockdown. I would actually describe it as being some of the toughest months I have ever had, and that's really, I think, exacerbated by the remote learning and the homeschool situation. I have an 8-year-old and a preschooler, a 4-year-old, yeah, I felt like we didn't cope. I mean, I don't think I've ever drunk so much wine. I don't just I was recently just doing a quick stock take of how much gin I had in the cupboard just to check there was going to be enough to get through the second round of homeschooling. No, but jokes aside, the challenge has been my partner, who normally is not so much the primary carer, but works less than me, definitely has been busier than normal because he is managing frontline COVID response in the Pacific, in Samoa and Vanuatu, and remotely, but much busier than normal. And then we've been busier than normal because of, you know, the shift to remote work, and our workload has in some ways increased during this time. So the casualty in that has been school, and so there hasn't, like, yeah, we have tried with the remote learning, but we really haven't done as much as was recommended. And I think that's something that we've just had to let go of, really, like in the kind of coping picture. You know, missing a term of year 2, like, I think we'll be okay. The kids are made for this time. They absolutely love it. They love that we're home all the time. We normally, my partner works in the Pacific, and I'm always like, you know, Annie always on a plane every week. We're not home a lot, and so they love having us around. So that's kind of a new dynamic for our family. But it's actually impossible to homeschool children and to full-time working parents. That's why we have school. So that challenge kind of remains.
Oh, well, we're glad to hear that, you know, it sounds like, you know, I do think, like, especially as women, sometimes we feel like it has to be perfect. And actually, in many of the women entrepreneurs that I've had the chance to work with over the last few months, and also many of my family and friends, it's been a zoo for everybody. So it's okay. That is that is okay. And kids are incredibly resilient. So I think it's so nice to actually learn that, you know, at this time you have the time to spend with them. And I'm sure your presence itself a great experience. So great. How about carving time for yourself? I mean, I think self-care is also incredibly important. I think during this time is, of course, stressful for the business and for the family. And what have you done, or if there has been anything that you have tried during this time frame that you felt that was very helpful for your own self-care? Annie, maybe you can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I'm just going to say it right out front, is the thing that dropped off the list was self-care. So trying to run a business, making sure that my team were okay, making sure the kids were emotionally and, you know, set up with what they needed to do, you know, all of that. My partner's work, he usually works part-time, had to go full-time. He's in lung transplants, and that's not great with COVID, targeting the lung. So, you know, things that had to drop off, self-care. That's probably not great, because running a business is not a sprint. We do a lot of sprints, but it's a marathon. And I think I really noticed in myself that I was wearing out gradually, because I couldn't keep up with the pace of doing everything and trying to be perfect. And, you know, that, yeah, like you were saying before, it's not possible to do it all. And the thing that I'm doing now is I took a step back and realized that I needed to take time for myself. Yeah. And I had to think about, with the limited time that I have, what are the things that make me recharge, and what can I do that I could add on to something else. So I like exercising. That keeps me energized, actually gives me back energy, which is great. And I love talking to people, and I love seeing people face to face, and I love hugging. And it's really hard for the huggers right now. And so what I do is I mean, I go out and have a bike ride, and I do that with I do that with my neighbour Ella, who's on the line, and you know, and the kids go off in the distance, and we can all be paired individually. We're only allowed 2 people with each other at a time here in Melbourne, and we're allowed to go out for exercise. So we make the most of that, and for me, that is my self-care time. And I think probably I also should consider the amount of gin that I'm drinking this time. It does help me, but I think maybe long term, not self-care option.
I see. Well, I suppose we all first learned from the first confinement experience, and now the second time around, you can try something new. So that's excellent. Great. Yeah, I think everyone has a drink during confinement, I have to say. I think mine is a mojito. I've gone very fond of mojitos during this time. How about Lucinda? Have you practiced any type of self-care that you felt was especially impactful to your journey during this time, or anything that you're planning to try? Maybe you could share that with us also.
Yeah, I think like Annie, I've learned that the hard way. I didn't, like, just in the frantic nature of trying to manage so many other people. I'd say naturally I'm not fantastic at making time for myself anyway, but there are always like little opportunities where it avails, which weren't there. And I actually did a month ago, just I reached my limit without it sort of snuck up on me, and I just had to quite quickly just take a week off. So I kind of crossed the line with, you know, my fatigue and things like that. And so I'm very sort of conscious right now of trying to drop my pace a little bit. And you know, it's hard because I think you feel like you're home all the time, so it feels like you're not doing much, and so it kind of feels hard to take time out because you're just home all the time. But yeah, I'm a runner, like Annie. I like to run marathons, and that kind of usually is something I also do with friends, and that is something that I've been able to keep up. And I think possibly without that, things would be much harder, because that's kind of headspace, it's time in nature, it's time away. But I'm also thinking about what my calendar looks like, because I'm not sure if others find the same, but I have proportionally like a lot more meetings, because everything that would have been an incidental chat is now a scheduled call. And that's, you know, actually more tiring than it is just to have a coffee with someone. So I'm trying to kind of work out how we as a team are trying to work out how we can work more asynchronously and have less meetings, so that we can create a little bit more space in the calendar, just to sort of ease the pace off a little bit.
Yeah, very true. Yes, I do find actually the many calls that has accumulated actually create a different sense of fatigue. Okay, you know what? It's our the remaining 6 minutes. Shall we answer some questions? I'm sorry, is that Philippa?
Yes, I was going to suggest that. We have 3 questions that came in the chat. Maybe Lovey, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly. Would you like to ask your question?
Hi, sure. So definitely, I mean, you mentioned, Annie, that you actually expanded globally. Now, given the pandemic situation, where offices are usually closed and people are working remotely, are they considering the partnerships as a very good thing? I mean, did you find any challenges while extending your global operations?
Yes, heaps. Heaps of challenges and ongoing challenges. We definitely had so we've gone business to consumer, but so that is a quite easy way, I guess, of launching internationally for us. But one of the things that we're building up at the moment is working on both locally and international partnerships, because they then, you know, bring with them. So we've got clinicians now in the UK that are some fantastic, you know, I guess they're smaller partnership arrangements, but wonderful. And then they recommend us to their patients and their general community to use. So it's been really different, because before I would have gone and seen these like groups face to face, like I have in the US previously, and I've had to do that remotely, and mainly like on messaging and seeing people's CVs and things like that. It's really challenging, but I think, you know, I feel like for the first time in a while, like around the world, we're all living a similar-ish journey. we're all doing it slightly different, but we're experiencing a single narrative in our experience with COVID. And I think that has brought us together in a way that starts a conversation like nothing else.
I'm sure that you must be proud that now that you have a remote company, in a way, you're remotely operating globally. So that's, I think, something which is to be proud of, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you. And as we start increasing, we're only in one language. We're starting to realize as we've gone international that we need to start expanding our languages as well. And I think that's something that I'm really excited about.
Yes. Well, I'm also living in Melbourne at the moment, so yeah, very well able to relate when you both shared your lockdown things.
Yeah, it's hard. I hope it goes okay for you.
Yes. Yeah, Philippa, you can continue. I wouldn't take too much time.
Thank you, Lavi. I think Ingrid had a question as well. I'm not sure if she would like to join the video. Otherwise, I can just ask it. So Ingrid's question was, what is the biggest thing you have taken away from COVID-19 experience, and how do you think it will shape the future of your workplace? Maybe we can show this one to Lucinda.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is thinking about what does the future of work look like after this. You know, we've talked about remote work for so long, and it's never really been, never really been considered so seriously and possibly as now. So I hope that we're not completely remote in future, because I think you do lose something by being completely remote. But what I think we will really gain is, our team moves around a lot and travels a lot in normal times, and I don't know when we'll be allowed to do that again. But I had always taken those kind of travel times as being like out of the office, and now I can see like I could really be in the office, and so could our team when we're doing that. I've also found that it's made our client and our customer network much smaller. Like it's now just as easy, or the experience of me talking to customers in New York City is the same as in Sydney. And that's kind of a big game changer, where we would always think about like trying to meet with people face to face, and then the international customers had a different experience. Now the experience is similar for everyone, and that really helps us then think about how we would standardize and automate our customer experience, which is a huge positive step. But as like an urban designer who thinks about neighborhoods a lot, I'm also thinking about what impact does this mean for cities? Like if we're all working remotely, like do we need these massive freeways which like divide our cities anymore? If people aren't needing to move so much, maybe we need to plan more for local neighborhoods and what local life looks like, rather than these big sort of destination projects. So yeah.
And what about you, Annie?
Oh, I paused and forgotten the question. Yeah, I think I would love to be to go back to face to face, but one of the things that's really made me consider our growth potential, working with people that are in different countries as well. So we're looking at ways at the moment that we will translate into Mandarin, and before I probably would have thought a bit more local around who do I know, who can I get in, and now we just contact someone from overseas. So that's quite incredible, because we're able to operate in a real-time recording situation. I mean, it got me thinking when I was on a podcast recently, and I did it remotely from my office here. That I can really be communicating with people for audio all around the world. And that really extends the possibilities for our growth.
Sorry, I have a lot of chat going on, and it's starting to be a bit hard to find the questions. Maybe Winchi, if you
sure. Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes. Future of workplace. We did that one, and then
I think it was maybe Jessica's question.
Yes. A question from Jessica Ferrari. Jessica, I don't know if you wanted to come on. I think Jessica's question Oh, hello, Jessica. You had a question for Annie.
Yeah, I had a question. You mentioned that you moved from delivering localized physical products to like downloadable QR codes, and that seems like a huge shift. And I'm just curious how that shifted your business model, and how, like, the process you went through in deciding to make that it sounds like a pretty significant shift in revenue and the way you deliver your business. So if you could talk a little bit more about that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I probably downplayed how big of a pivot this was for us. This was massive because we were predominantly a hardware and software company, and now we're mainly software. I just saw that there was going to be a lot easier path with software at the moment. And so we went with that. The way that we developed it, thankfully, was built, I guess, from a ground up and not a front in app type of way. So it meant that we could pivot, from the back of our product to where we were directing it. So for instance, previously I made this red rainbow talk by using this tag, and it connected with our hardware products that would tap on this to say, hi, I'm red. When we pivoted to the QR code, it meant that this is free for parents to download, so they don't need to pay for this. It's meant that we have a lot more users, a bigger growth, because people can try it for free before they buy. What we will go on and offer later is that people can upgrade and they can use the device, because it really is better to get kids off the screen and running and moving around without holding onto the phone. But I think it's a great way for us and for parents to see what's available for them for remote learning, try it out, use it. That's what I would have wanted when I was going through language delay with my daughter. I wanted it immediately, like right now. And that's what we've made possible. And then, our hardware product is there. We're going to develop it to suit this market slightly, but it's almost ready. And when shipping is back online, currently there is not things like DHL operating in Victoria. It's not crossing our state boundary. So I'm really glad that we did make those moves, but yeah, it's been huge.
Terrific. And thank you. Yeah. Next, we have a question from Karen from Legally Yours. Karen, would you like to ask your question?
I would. Thank you so
Hello.
much. That was fantastic. I just had a question around whether you had any top tips about transitioning from working from home to then home life. My children think that I'm hilarious because I probably have about 5 different change of clothes per day, which is my kind of thing that I do. So I have work clothes, and then I have my active wear clothes, and then I have my casual clothes, just because it helps me segment. But did you, Lucinda and Annie, have any other tips or anything you could recommend for that transition?
Oh, maybe you can recommend. I mean, I like your outfit change idea. I haven't. I mean, I've often worked like very flexibly anyway. Like I've not always done my work during the day, and often actually very early in the morning is when I like to do it. And so I found that my rhythm has been pretty offbeat with that, and I struggle with that actually. And it's not so much about switching off, because I'm okay with not being on or off all the time, but it's just making sure that there are different zones in the day, and I'm not just in this very messy room, which I don't clean up just to make people feel better about their homes, and it's okay to have a messy house on Zoom.
Fully appreciate it. I'm loving it.
Well, yeah, and I've also just haven't had time. But yeah, I do appreciate different tips and techniques for segmenting time, whenever that is, whether it's day, night. I was going to say, when it's nighttime when you have wine, and it's daytime when you have coffee, but that's probably, I've now mentioned like alcohol 3 times, and you're probably going to get the wrong impression about me. So
not at all. I think that's a really good one. I love it. And Annie, did you have any kind of things that you do to segment those times?
Oh, I love your idea around changing clothes. I think I've ended up staying in activewear most of the time. Mainly I do things like I try and will do my hair or something like that. It makes me feel like I'm focused, particularly if I've got a meeting, but that's not happening so much anymore. One of the things that I think I've noticed in this time is probably roles around the house, and things that I like probably take for granted and switching between things, because so my husband does the cooking, and he does most of the domestic things around the house. So in terms of switching between roles, my role was usually like picking up the kids. Well, I don't do that anymore. And, you know, and going to school sport. Well, I'm not doing that anymore. So a lot of my things have really dropped off my list. But I think it has been hard because the kids still want to spend that time with me, and it would be great. It's really hard to communicate to them when I'm in work mode and when I'm not, and that it might switch that I do 2 hours of work and then spend an hour with them. I think I'm struggling with that. And I think it's like our eldest, it gets the concept because we have a timetable and he can follow it. But our younger one is still like, I think all of it is mummy time. And just goes and erases the board. So, you know, I think it's a work in progress. And we might.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Good insights. Thank you.
I love that. All of that is mummy's time. Terrific. Well, you know what? We're going to move on to the next segment of our discussion, and later on we can revert back to more questions either during networking or in the next segment. So in the next segment, we're hoping to have a Q&A conversation with Jenna, who was one of our fellows from the Cartier Women Initiative. And we specifically wanted Jenna to be on this webinar today to share a bit about her experience as being part of the Cartier Women Initiative program. So Jenna, do you want to talk a bit about Home Care Heroes and introduce a bit about yourself and your business?
Yes, sure. So hi everyone. So great to be here with all of you. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Home Care Heroes. So we're an online platform that connects people in need, people who care with people in need. So by that we connect everyday people and we match them with people who might be socially isolated or lonely due to age, disability, illness or injury. For companionship and non-medical services. So we're really building relationships and helping connect people within their communities. So we've been running since 2016 and we've had some great successes. And this has really been a transitionary period for us, going from a hustling, growing startup to prepping for scale. So I applied for the Cartier Women's Initiative actually this time last year. And it has been a full year process in terms of the application and then the actual program, which has been the last 6 months. And it's been a really great program to take me from that transitionary period, from growth to scale. And that's what makes it a really special and unique program as well.
Great, thank you, Jenna. And so how has maybe perhaps share with everyone a bit about how has being part of the program benefited your company, and how do you expect going forward to sort of continue to capitalize on the opportunities from the Cartier Women Initiative?
Yeah, so I think that there's a few different components to the program. So there's the teaching and learning side where you get support to help you with preparing everything that you need to in order to raise money so that you can reach that next stage of scale in your business. So that's everything from your financial model to understanding how that works to being paired with another mentor mine was another social enterprise founder who can really help you develop your business plan and strategy. And everybody has one, but it's that real step between, you know, having a draft kind of scribbled down that you're always like, oh yeah, that's changed, to having a really communicative document that you can convey to anyone. So that part is really useful in just getting your head around it. And for anyone that's thinking about raising money, but is not really sure about how to do that and when, like this is a really good program for that. And then, so the whole program is kind of sets you up to do that, and you actually get practice doing that through delivering a business plan and then doing a pitch that you have with judges. So that part's really useful. And then the second part is also once the program is actually announced, there's a lot of attention. So I've just been bombarded in an amazing way with a lot of really great PR opportunities. And it's been a really great way for Home Care Heroes and me as an individual to get my name out there. So in the last kind of 3 months, I've been in InStyle, Elle, Vogue, AFR, and like there are countless more publications that are coming out or have already come out. So that also gives you the spotlight to be able to have more of a platform to speak from, so that when you are ready to raise money, you're already a credible source, as well as all the other things that come with growth. So at the moment we're hiring and we're really growing our team, and creating a employer brand is really, really important to do that, because as a new startup, it's really difficult to hire people. But as your brand grows, there's more and more people who believe in what you're doing and will hear about your role, so that they can join the team. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm glad those items were helpful for you growing your business. And so just in terms of background for everyone on the call, for the Cartier Women Initiative, we focus our program support around 3 main areas. One is financial capital support. And so for all fellows who are participating in our program, they do receive, one for every category will receive 100,000 US dollars towards their business, and the 2 other fellows of the category will receive 30,000 US dollars towards their business. The second component is social capital, and the social capital includes what Jenna mentioned just right now, which is the media and external visibility for the remarkable work that women impact entrepreneurs are doing around the world. And so, for example, globally for the last edition, we had close to 100 press coverage around all of the entrepreneurs as part of the program. And so we hope that by highlighting this remarkable work, we're not only advocating for women impact entrepreneurs in the space, but also specifically all the remarkable work and the business progress that you have made in your respective impact areas. And then as part of social capital, we are also connecting fellows within our program with other women impact entrepreneurs, because the sisterhood globally is so important to us. And globally, since we have been running for about 14 years now, we have about 300 women impact entrepreneurs as part of our sisterhood. And oftentimes this is really the best place, similar to this gathering and this webinar today, to share best practices, experience, what's worked, what didn't work, and you know, all of the work and life balance as a woman impact entrepreneurs that we all face. And so this piece is really also very critical for us. And last but not least, which is the third vertical of our capital support, is the human capital support. And so the entrepreneurship journey is new to many people. And so while we have both serial entrepreneurs as part of our program, as well as first-time entrepreneurs, they do come from a mix of experience. And oftentimes what we find is that they may be needing different pieces of human capital support. And so our human capital support focus on 3 main areas. One is on impact, because we are focused on supporting women impact entrepreneurs. We help them understand and how to measure impact. And as part of this, we have partnered with INSEAD Social Entrepreneurship Program to send every fellow within our program on a scholarship to a 1-week social entrepreneurship program at INSEAD Business School. The second part of this includes a Speaking to Inspire program, which is a leadership, presence, and communication program that we send all of our fellows to. And this is really important because all of us are advocating for some cause as part of the social and environmental impact that we're creating. And last but not least is strategic financial mindset. As the business grow and you try different ideas of strategy and etc., I think quantifying those strategy and how it affects your bottom line is always really important. And then that nature of mindset changes actually as you grow your business. And so we have oftentimes found that this is something that all entrepreneurs can really use and has included as part of our program. And that is also the part that probably Jenna mentioned that is really helpful, especially as you are raising capital or considering external investors. And so those are specifically the program capital supported that we wanted to highlight. Jenna, maybe can you share with us really maybe initially, what was the motivation to apply way back a year ago?
So I actually heard about the program through Jessie, who's part of the communications team at Cartier in Sydney. And that was the first I'd heard of it. And the way she described it, it was just such a perfect fit. So because we are a for-profit and for-purpose business, it really kind of focused on developing female founders in this space. And it wasn't just a grant. It was something that was really prepping me for scale and for raising investment. So that's what I thought was really appealing about it, was that it was the practical side as well as the prize money as well. So it was a combination of just being a really great program. And it was also the curiosity at why Cartier was writing to me about founders and social impact. So just having such a big brand and company really believing and supporting this program is also a really great benefit. And it was the reason that I was like, oh, I don't know Jessie, I'll just click on this email. So, yeah. And another thing that was really exciting, and unfortunately because of COVID, was that it is that community that Winji was talking about, and we were all meant to be in Boston for a week to kind of have that training and meet each other, but unfortunately that didn't go ahead. But we're set for next year.
Yes, fantastic. Yes, I think, yes, we're all very fond of the local Australia communication team, which has really helped us reach out to all of the women impact entrepreneurs in the Oceania region. And it's been really remarkable hearing all the great work that's going on. And today we're listening to Annie and Lucinda's businesses. I am just so in awe of what's going on in Australia. And we need more women impact entrepreneurs like that around the world. And I think this is one of the reasons why Cartier is so committed to the space, because it is really business as a force for good, which is how we would like to run our maison. And we see this remarkable inspiration amongst women impact entrepreneurs as they grow their business. And we hope that we can really change really the new face of business and capitalism in terms of as a force for good for the world. So also so awesome that that Jessie reached out and found you. And as I always say in during this phase of application, so our current application phase is open and it will be open until end of July. And so we really encourage all of the entrepreneurs on this call, if you fulfill our eligibility criteria to apply, we would love to see you. I also always say, like, we're looking for you. Oftentimes I meet women impact entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, you're not looking for me. You're looking for someone who's like doing something else or doing something bigger. So I always say, no, we're looking for you. So please do apply and share with us your work and be part of our community. And regardless whether you're part of the fellowship or not, we do offer also a lot of resources in general to public, to women impact entrepreneurs. And so we hope to have a chance to share that with you also.
Can I just say one more thing, Winji?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Another great benefit is that they don't take any equity. So it is a really great program that takes you over a period of time to kind of mentor and coach you. But for a lot of these accelerator programs, they usually either like charge or they'll take a portion of equity, but they didn't take it at all. And in terms of people who are looking to expand globally in your business plan and something that you're thinking about, I've already been connected with a lot of people globally who are investors or have accelerators and connections overseas. So I think that it's also thinking about that next few stages of where you want to raise money, because Australia is small. And, you know, if you've got really big ambitions, which is exciting, then this is a really good way to meet other investors that aren't just in Australia, that you might not otherwise have access to.
Yes,
and I'm really happy if like anyone wants to ask more about it, if you can connect with me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. And yes, we hope to certainly learn more about all the women impact entrepreneurs in Australia. It sounds like we have one question in the Q&A box that has come up from let's see, Rusanda? Rusandra. Let's see, Rusandra, are you on? Or let me just maybe ask you a question out loud. You had asked a question about the program. Only startups that have already generated revenues can apply for Cartier, or do you accept early stage startups that are preparing to soon launch? And so, Rosandra, in regards to this question, so the program is organized into 8 different categories. 7 of the categories are regional, and so we have a Southeast Asia and Oceania region, which is where Australia entrepreneurs would belong, as well as 1 global categories for science and technology. So depending on your business, if you are a general startup business, then for the regional category, there is a 1-year revenue requirement. And so we are looking for the startups who have already created some sort of product market fit and validated some segment of your market in terms of use case. And then we hope that our program can help propel you further in that phase. However, if you are a deep tech science and technology startup, for that category, we do not have a 1-year revenue requirement. And this is because for those types of startup, it has a much more intensive R&D period, longer commercialization cycle. And for that category, you're someone who is pioneering and inventing and very likely patenting certain types of science and technology that will create a remarkable impact in the world. And so for that category of entrepreneurs, we don't have a revenue requirement. And so that is the answer to your question. Let's see, and then, all right, so no more other questions from this. Any tips, Jenna, from you on how to prepare a application?
Yeah, it's not a short application. So if you guys are interested, I would suggest getting started early and like having a document that you can come back to so that you're not doing it the night before and freaking out that you don't have enough information, because it actually does go through a lot about your like business plan and what your vision is and what you're currently tracking. So it's good to kind of work at it bit by bit and then put all your answers in and submit at the end. I do remember last year I was that person who did it super last minute. So I'd like kind of prepped them before, but I didn't go to submit it until the day of. And I had a glitch in my upload. It worked, it ended up working, but it was extremely stressful. So please don't do that to yourself. Nobody needs any more stress at the moment.
Yes, we I totally agree, Jenna. I think yes, the application is it is a bit long, I think, in part because we wanted to learn in greater detail about what you're up to and all of that. And then we would definitely agree with Jenna. Please don't submit it on the last day. That is the day we get the most number of application, and at certain time we always have the heart attack of worrying about whether our server will crash. So. And then it makes it incredibly difficult to figure out, oh, what should we do about people who said that they would have submitted and didn't, and all of that. So, so yes, please do try to submit earlier and take a look at the application. We did try to make the application form much more around sort of questions that are binary and with choices and this year, so that it would make the application process a little bit smoother and a bit easier. Yeah.
And I guess another thing is everyone's businesses are really diverse. Like there's not one thing that Cartier really look for in this program. Like we are an online marketplace, but there's lots of people who are not online businesses. So don't be discouraged if you're like, oh, I'm not a tech company. It's really just for growing businesses. And yeah, I think that, oh, and to really think about your social impact and the way you measure it and how growing your business also increases your social impact. Those are my tips.
Yes. Excellent tip. Yes, yes, we do care a lot about the impact that the entrepreneur is making, and because we are specifically focusing on this theme of business as a force for good. Also, as we evaluate your application, I think it's good to mention that 60% of the criteria is on the business itself, and 40% of the criteria is on you as an individual and sort of how you your leadership as a woman impact entrepreneurs, because we are trying to create more role models in the space to share and inspire other women to really go big around creating the change that they're looking for in the world. And I think Jenna also mentioned an excellent point. We do have a diverse group of entrepreneurs ranging from 24 years old to 60 years old in our last edition, for example, and in all industry types and products and services, SaaS or non-SaaS businesses. It is really a program that is more focused on entrepreneurial leadership more than anything else. And also, you don't have to be a business that's specifically looking for external investors either. So we're not only looking for VC scaled business by any means. If you are, happy to help you out with that, and I'm happy to learn more about your thinking around how you are looking to finance that business. But if you were not, and you're hoping to keep your business private and funded via cash flow and revenue, we certainly have plenty of businesses that were that way also. So great. So with that, I think we are probably ready to move on to the, actually, maybe before we move on to the networking segment, Philippa, maybe should I hand it back to you and see if we have any, open it to any further questions from the audience for any of our speakers?
Yes, for sure. You can. So if you have questions, do drop them in, or just, unmute and go for it. I will try to find you and spotlight your video. I don't know if you've seen my message in the chat, but for the networking, we're going to do 2 rounds. And you can choose the rooms you attend. So so the rooms are room 1 with Dr. Annie McAuley, room 2 with me, room 3 with Jenna, room 4 with Lucinda, room 5 with Winji, and room 6 is just with attendees. This is in the chat, so if you didn't catch the number, just go scroll up and read it. And if you have a preference for the first room you get assigned to, just write it in front of your display name so that we can make that allocation. And then for the second round, you can change the name again and go for a second room. If you have any questions you would like to ask, like one question maybe before we go into the networking while everyone changes their names. Right, if not, that's okay. I actually do have a question for Jenna. And it's just like, can you tell us a little bit more about how was the event and kind of that whole experience of being away with all those other women, and kind of what was like the thing that impressed you the most?
Unfortunately, because of COVID, it was meant to be the last week of May. So we didn't go ahead with it, but Cartier have been nice enough to say that we will be doing it in the future. So I think Winji will know more about how it was in previous years.
Yes, we during the time of COVID, we had like 4 plans: Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, and then eventually I think we reverted to Plan D, which was basically a digital announcement of the fellows in the program, and then we hope to unite everyone all together in the next edition in our location in Boston. And so we hope the situation in the US will improve, and that if so, then we are targeted to be in Boston on May 28th of next year, so to combine this current edition that we are doing a call for application for, along with the past editions fellows. And so very exciting time for us, and we hope we hope the situation will improve. If not, I'm sure we'll come up with a plan B for the year also.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry you missed it this year, Jenna, but yeah, I think it's going to make up for it, because then you have 2 cohorts together, so even more amazing women to connect with. So we were ready to go into the breakout rooms. So we'll just, Peter's going to click the button and the magic will happen. You will have 10 minutes and then we connect back here before we go for the second round.